Well, good morning. I'm Dave Whitham. I'm Lieutenant of the Santa Barbara Police Department, and this may sound a little redundant because Dave already said it, but 24 years ago I was sitting exactly where you are. I worked here at City College in security, and I also went here and got my degree from City College, and I kind of knew what career path I wanted to be on. So as a lieutenant, I have quite a few officers and civilian personnel that I oversee. One of them is the Training and Recruitment Department, who usually I send my sergeant or officer here, but when I saw this opportunity to come talk to you, I rearranged my schedule because I wanted to talk to you because I was here 23 years ago, as was Dave, maybe some other law enforcement personnel here in this exact same situation. So I'm going to talk a little bit about me, about our process, and then I'm going to reiterate some of the things that Tom had already talked about because that was a really good presentation. And just unlike Los Angeles County and police, we love our brothers and sisters with Santa Barbara Sheriffs. So we get along great. Just about me, I've worked for the Santa Barbara Police Department for 21 years. And I obtained my Administration of Justice degree here back in 1988 and joined the police department in 1989. As I was working here, I got a call one Friday night. So I was working security. It said, hey, be here Monday, ready for the academy. So it was that quickly. And I started the process. And there were over 250 people that took the written test when I started, and of those, it was whittled down to 2, me and one other guy that went to the academy. So it's a very competitive business. It's a very competitive career out there, especially in these economic times. I want to hit on one thing that Tom talked about because that was a great presentation, and it's one that I did here 23 years ago from one of the Administration of Justice instructors here, Don Seaver, who's no longer with us. And he gave a similar presentation about oral interviews, and he started it by saying, some people say you cannot study for an oral interview. You just have to go and tell them, what it is about you. That's not true. As Tom brought out, there are some points in there that, be prepared. We at the police department a couple of Saturdays ago started an entry-level testing process because we have 7 vacancies. Whether we're going to fill all those right now or not remains to be seen due to budget. However, we typically get 200 to 250 applicants. We had over 1,200, which is quite a few. When I went to the physical agility and the written exam, there were 300 there, and we whittled that to about 200, and of those we'll probably hire 2, so it's extremely competitive. A couple of points that I've done in my career: I've conducted background investigations, I've done hirings, I've sat on numerous oral panels, and it is so true. Yesterday, I'm one of the decision makers in the department as to send background packets on as to whether somebody's going to get an interview with the chief or not. And I saw a guy sitting out there waiting to do his oral interview, and he was wearing a pair of Dockers, and he was wearing a button-down shirt. Sorry, that doesn't really cut it with us. It's so competitive. So a guy's not wearing a suit and tie, he's already at a disadvantage. So take that to heart, those points that Tom brought out about your oral interview process and the process. I'm going to go over what the process is to be a police officer, at least with our agency and throughout California. You start with a need, a desire, a want to do this career. You don't just pick up the paper one day and say, hey, I think I'll be a cop. Usually doesn't. Sometimes it works, but usually doesn't. It's exactly where you're sitting right now with an interest, gathering information on the career, deciding whether you want to do this career or not. So you go online. These days, back in my day, it was filling out a paper application, but now you can go online to the City of Santa Barbara's website at our Human Resources. It has all the descriptions of all the jobs in the city, and it has all the openings. And you just fill that out online, it gets into our Human Resources, and then we get a list of those who want to test. For everybody that wants to test, that's not convicted of a felony, and they filled out that application, they start with a written test. It's just a government civil service test. It's not one that we make up. And then from there, it's pass-fail. Once you pass that, you have the opportunity to take a physical agility test, which is usually we had 212 people make it to the physical agility test, and I think only one person didn't make it. It's usually the run. We do a quarter-mile run, and some people just can't do that within 3.5 minutes or 4.5 minutes. From there, if you pass that, you go into oral interviews, and we do 2 separate orals. We do a human resources oral, which is the general knowledge about this job, and then if you make it past that, we've taken, and we're doing it this week, is the top 40. Those top 40 get to go on to an in-house oral board where we have 3 of our sergeants interviewing, which is a more in-depth. Again, it's common sense. It's not like, what do you do in this situation? We expect you to think and act like a police officer. It is where we're just looking for those common sense answers, like, would you arrest your mother? No, I wouldn't. Would you arrest the mayor? No, it's one of those questions. You have to be prepared for these situationals and the common sense answers in that. Once you pass that, you're given the opportunity, and we'll probably give out about 8 or 9 backgrounds. Okay, this is where you fill out a 25-page questionnaire about every history in your life. And it's from the time that you were, really young, if you've ever done anything wrong, right, all these things. We want to know everything about you, and we have the right to know just about everything about you. Because we're looking for those people who are the ones of good moral character, the ones that are going to be the community guardians, the ones that, I heard it said one time is that peace officers have an awesome responsibility, is that we, in the time of peace, are the only ones that have the authority and the right to take a human life without asking permission first. It's an awesome responsibility. If you think about it, we have the death penalty and we put people to death, but that takes a court order 20 years to do that. But as the guardians of the community expects, and we have the duty to, at times, be faced with taking a human life. And if you can't do that, as the first line police officers, and then get into other careers at the police department, then it's not the job for you. Okay? I've been in that situation a few times. Luckily, I've never had to do that. Once you get past that hurdle of a background investigation, you have to take a medical exam, a physical exam, and then you get a chief's interview. So you go through all that process, and then we set you up to go to a police academy. That is 6 months out of your life, similar to, if you've ever seen on TV, a boot camp. And we have 4 cadets right now at the San Bernardino Sheriff's Academy. We typically use the Ventura, but they weren't running one right now. So we have 4 cadets at the San Bernardino Sheriff's Academy, and it's rough. I mean, they are up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning writing memorandums and getting prepared. It's very physically challenging. So once you graduate from the academy after 6 months, you're in a field training program for 4 months. And within that time, there's also a year of probation. So from the time you start wanting to be an officer until the time you're actually out on your own, off probation, is about 1.5 years. And then that's where the career really starts. I've been doing this for 21 years. 9 of those, because we talked about, what would you want to do for your life, and then it's not really work. Well, 9 of the years here, I rode a motorcycle in Santa Barbara. I got paid for it. That was a good thing. It was a fun thing to do. But if you're, at the end of the day, when you go home, and you said, wow, that day went fast. You ever been in a job or done something where it just dragged on and on and on? That really doesn't happen with us. It's not all exciting all the time like you see on Cops, but it's extremely rewarding, and it's like I put in a 10-hour day. Another thing we do is we work 4 10 days. I get Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off, which is nice. And at the end of the day, it's like, where'd the time go? Because I'm having fun doing this job, and I always have. So that's, and I'll be around a little bit afterwards if I have any questions, and I've got some brochures and things here. But the police department isn't only about police officers in the field pushing a patrol car. We have a lot of support personnel that assist us in those jobs, with as public safety dispatchers, we have records specialists, we have secretaries, we have crime analysts, we have a whole litany of jobs. And the funny thing is that, if you work for the police department and most of the agencies here, the process to get hired is pretty much the same. We're looking for people who haven't been convicted of a felony. They do the same background investigation. We background anybody that's going to work at the police department. We give a polygraph examination. A couple of things that are required by post, which is a peace officer standards and training, our police officers are taking some medical and psychological, and the other positions don't require that, but it's pretty intense. So what you have to think about now are those, as Dave said, the good choices. The choices you make now are going to affect you for the rest of your life. And again, I'll be around a little bit. I know there's some other speakers. I don't want to take too much time, but I want to leave you with this about the choices. I did background investigations for 2 years, and the one thing that will haunt you for the rest of your attempt to get into law enforcement is, as Tom said, if you are untruthful at any step of the process. I've had those occasions, and once I find that that's happening, I immediately disqualify that candidate. And there are a lot of candidates that weren't even untruthful to me. I found out that they've applied for 5 or 6 other law enforcement agencies throughout the state, and I would go to that law enforcement agency and look in that file. And I talked to that investigator and asked them, why didn't you hire this person? Well, he lied about his marijuana use. You know, she lied about, this instance. And that's a killer. It will haunt you for the rest of trying to get a career in law enforcement. So always be truthful. As Tom said, sometimes the truth isn't pretty, but at least if you're honest about it, you're not making the call whether you're going to go on to the next process or not. The person is. But it's not going to affect you in the sense that, you've lied, because we have a saying, you lie, you die. And that goes for once you start as a police officer, but anytime you have an investigation on you and you're untruthful about it, and this happened recently with 2 police officers in our agency in the past 2 years, they were untruthful in an investigation and the chief fired them. Because you can't be effective as a police officer if you've ever in your career been untruthful and been caught about it. Because once you go testify in court, a defense attorney is always going to bring that up. Oh, you say, my client here, he's been arrested for burglary. Have you ever lied about anything and been caught, officer? Yes. Well, how do we know you're not lying about my client right now? So you're completely ineffective for the rest of your career. And our chief has a policy, it's called Brady. It's a 1963 case. But you lie, you die, and you're gone. So I'll be around afterwards about some of the other career opportunities that we have at the police department. We're always hiring public safety dispatchers. We have about 5 openings right now. It's a tough job. It's one that a lot of people think they want to get into that, and then they start the process. They find that it's not.